Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in my last video I gave a broad overview of everything that you need to know from USMLE writing to residency. Okay, what you need. And as I said in my previous video, today we are going to be talking about before you start, right, counting the cost. So I mean, as you know, it just makes sense that before you start something, you should sit down, plan, calculate, check, is this thing even feasible? Is this something I can do? Right? I think it's absolutely necessary that you should plan before you start anything. Obviously, there are things that you would never know, right? So let's say when I was in first year, I planned to write step 1, step 2, CK, step 2 CS. There is no way I would know that in 2020 COVID would happen and then CS will be cancelled, right? So of course there are things that we can never really know, right? But then it also makes sense that before we start something, we should always sit down and count the cost. Even the Bible says so. So first things first, I think the most important thing that we don't talk about so much would be money. Step is expensive. USMLE is expensive. I think the minimum you're going to spend is going to be $10,000. Don't let me scare you. You don't have to pay all of that at once. There are times when you will need to pay $150, times you will need to pay $900, times you will need to pay $60, but everything adds up, and this is over a span of years. So calm down, don't get scared. But yes, I think it's also something that is very important that you know. Okay, so for example, step 1 will cost you nothing less than $1,000, just about $1,300, $1,200, right? And that doesn't even include the cost of materials and other things, because you're going to live, you're going to survive. You might even be studying sometimes and you might not want to cook and stuff, and you will need to buy food, right? So all of those things add up. So I think it's important, if you're being sponsored by someone, it's important that you maybe explain to them, tell them that, oh, this is something I'm interested in doing, and this is an average of how it's going to cost. As I said earlier, I can't give a specific figure, right? Because it depends. I might want to use a resource that costs $500 and somebody else might not want to buy that because maybe genuinely they don't have, right? And depending on the place where you take it, if you take it in the US, in Canada, it's cheaper than taking it in any other place, right? And also there are other things. In the last video, I spoke about OSCEs. Depending on the number of OSCEs you take, some are paid for, some are unpaid. If you are doing research with a teacher or doing research somewhere, you might have some financial obligations or contributions towards that. So first thing, money. You should absolutely sit down and think of the money. But that's not to say that if you don't have all of it, you should now say, oh, I'm not going to do this. No, genuinely, when I started this journey, I didn't have money for 2 and down the line. Even as I am now, there are a lot of things that are uncertain. Okay, but then I sat down and I spoke about this with my family, and then we said, okay, you know what, let's start from step 1, right? And then thank God, after step 1, money for step 2 came. So that also happens, right? So I'm not saying that if you don't have $10,000 or $20,000 that you should not start right and thinking about step, or you should not think about it. No, absolutely not. You can, you should pray, believe, because for me, I believe that miracles can happen anytime. But then it's also something that you want to keep in mind, that this journey costs money. Also, this is also important if you are making decisions, if you are weighing, okay, maybe USMLE versus CLAB versus this or versus that. USMLE is among those ones that are on the higher spectrum of expensive, right? So that's one thing that you should know. I think that is the first thing that you should know. Second thing is time. Oh my goodness, time. You don't sit down today and want to write step in 2 months. Nope. Except you've been reading since. But if it's like your first exposure to step, because I already said before, there is step 1, there is step 2 CK, there is OET. You might also decide to write step 3, who knows? So these things take time. For some people, they are able to do all of their steps in 1 year. Kudos, like that's amazing. But maybe you're a student, maybe you're working, maybe you have other commitments and you're not able to devote a year to studying. So that can take you from anywhere from months to years. You can write step 1 maybe in 4th year, and the next time you're writing step 2 will be in 6th year. Next time you're writing it might be when you've graduated, right? So time is something that you should know, and also it would I think you should know about time because it will help you to be patient with yourself. It will help you to pace yourself. It will also help you to know to explain to those who are investing in you, those who are maybe sponsoring you. You have to explain to them that, see, oh, sorry, oh, this thing is not magic. It takes time. You guys have to be patient with me. Okay, right? So after money and time, third thing is resources. Resources can mean money, but by resources, I mean books, Q banks, that's question banks. The truth is that Q banks any day over textbooks. Yeah, so most of these question banks, you have to buy them, you have to subscribe for them, right? So there are different resources for step 1, different resources for step 2, and there are cases about this resource versus this resource, but the truth is that there are some that have already been in the market for a while. They are tested, they are tried. So if you are considering writing step, before you begin, I would encourage you to maybe go on YouTube, search, go online, check what are people using to study, what are the best resources out there, how much do they cost, how are they using it, are people using Q banks first, right? Are they buying textbooks, are they watching videos? No, what should I do, what resources am I going to use? And I should point out here that don't overload yourself with resources. That is one big mistake we make, because step 1 is very uncertain. Step 1 is a lot, so it makes sense that, oh, you might be here, there. I'm going to address this in a different video about do's and don'ts on your preparation, but yes, you should absolutely check out resources. Go online and see what people are using. Ask people who have written before you, people that you might know, people who are studying presently. What are you guys using? Does this work? And then I think also you should also at this time know yourself. I know that people say know yourself, and sometimes when I hear it, I'm like, oh, if I hear it one more time. But that's the truth. Do videos work for you? You're not going to watch videos because everybody's watching videos. If you cannot watch videos, don't watch. If you read textbooks and you sleep, you're not going to carry textbook, okay? If you need more time to understand things and to assimilate stuff, that means you have to give yourself more time. So you see where planning comes in, right? So again, money, time, resources. Fourth thing is dedication and commitment. Man, you have to speak to yourself. You will have to talk to yourself. USMLE journey is not a sprint. It is a genuine marathon that can take you months to years, and every day looks different. Some days you're high up there, your motivation is here, your motivation is like on a steroid. You're reading, everything is entering. The next week you might be busy, you might have commitments, you might fall sick. Maybe you're a mother, maybe you're a wife, maybe you have kids, you have family, you're taking care of someone, you have commitments, maybe at church, and you have to just tell yourself that, see, I've invested in this thing, this is my end goal, I've started, I have to continue. So you have to be very dedicated, you have to be committed to it. And commitment, I don't mean that, oh, you're going to, like, every day is going to be fire, no. But at the end of the day, you've put your hands on the plow, right? You have to keep moving forward and forward. Also, I'm not saying that, oh, the fact that you decided to write step means you must. No. Life happens, you can change your mind and it's okay, right? But then if you are deciding to do this, I have to tell you that you have to be very dedicated, you have to be serious, you have to be committed, right? Step 1 is not mostly about who is smart, who knows book, it's who is going to sit down and read. Okay, the next thing is study habits, plans and timelines, and I've already talked about this a little bit. So you see how everything is interwoven. If you're like me, that you thrive on planning, put everything on paper, this might be the time that you start to draw yourself a timetable. Say, okay, I'm going to start from biochem, I'm going to start from micro. Oh no, I'm very comfortable with GI. Okay, let me do this, right? Or I'm going to use so number of months to do this. For this month, I'm going to be doing this. So that is study plan or study habits. Also, it might be, oh, I'm very productive in the morning. The morning times are the best for me to study. Maybe everywhere is quiet, I'm fresh out of sleep. So okay, from this time to this time, I'm going to wake up. Or no, I'm a night owl. When I wake up in the morning, I don't even know myself. You know what? When everybody goes to bed, I'm going to read. These are things that you can start now to plan. Obviously, along the journey, things change, and feel free, like, it's okay to totally switch up your plans. It's okay to switch up your habits if something is not working. These are things that maybe you want to already start thinking about. Okay, now the next thing is mindset, and again, I've already touched on this you should have a very positive mindset, right? So you just do, like, be around people that feed you positively, consume resources that feed you positively. Don't go to where people are saying, you know, this thing, you're wasting your time, this thing is too expensive, and when will you finish? Nah, that would be like the worst thing you can do for yourself. Before you know it, you'll be dragged down to that level. So I will encourage you to always have a positive mindset, even if things are not looking very good, even if you are weeping, asking yourself, who sent me work? Still try. When you finish crying, you know, clean your eyes. Next, sleep. Next day, wake up and continue pushing. All right. And the next thing is support. Look, guys, I cannot overemphasize support. Man, maybe it's possible, but me, I don't think you can do this thing on your own. Like, you need people, guys. Like that, and it can be your family. I know that there are people who like to keep things private, and there is wisdom in, yes, everybody shouldn't know your business. Everybody shouldn't know what you're about and what's going on with you. I totally understand that, but then at least find one person, find 2 people, find 3 people that you can tell, oh, this is what I'm planning to do. They might not understand totally. They might not know the whole scope of what you're doing, but at least the day you're crying and you're like, see, I cannot do this thing again, because it will happen. You will have people that you can always go to and tell them that, see, this is how I'm feeling, and they will encourage you. And then if there are people around you, maybe in your school, who have written this exam or who are writing the exam at the same time or around the same time and they are writing, you should seek them out. You would always do better in community, trust me. And it does not mean that, oh, you have to do study group with them or you have to study at the same time. No, totally. If you are not the person that study group works for, you don't have to. But it's also necessary that someone tells you, okay, oh, have you tried this resource? Okay, have you seen this? Oh, let me ask you this question. Okay, how are you doing? Have you covered this content? Oh, what's keeping you? Do you understand this? Oh, can you explain this to me? Right? And also, I think it's also important that you tell your friends. If you have friends, you can also tell them, because USMLE is something that demands a lot of your time and commitment. So you also want to let them know that, oh, this is what you're doing. So that, oh, for example, you don't keep cancelling on plans, and then it begins to affect your relationship. If you explain all these things well to them, and then also if you've been a good friend and you're also trying to support them when you have time, I'm sure that they will totally understand, and you don't have to lose your friends because you're studying for STEP, right? So I've mentioned a lot of things, and I want to recap. Okay, so we talked about money, we talked about time, that's timelines, we talked about support, your friends, your family, your community. We talked about resources, we spoke about study habits, talked about mindset, talked about education and commitment. So if you've watched this video up to this point, thank you so much for sticking around. I hope you learned a thing or two. And then if you're already on this journey and you're feeling discouraged, I would like to encourage you, just keep pushing. If you can study today, sleep. Tomorrow, continue. There are people who have done this thing, and there are people who are rooting for you. I'm rooting for you. All right. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.